This is the second video on education research, and in the first one we had a discussion of what research is, and today our focus is research is on research philosophy, because without a very good understanding of research philosophy, it's very difficult for us to organize our own research. It's the research philosophy that guides you to decide on your research methodology or your research methods, the research designed and everything. And here you can see, right, let's focus on ontology. What meant by ontology? What's it? Can be defined as a branch of philosophy concerned with the nature of reality. It asks the question, what reality is? What's reality? What really exists? Or we can say the study of being. You can see under the topic here, the study of being was assumed to exist and the nature of reality itself. So ontology asks this basic question. Uh, so what is the basic question it asks you? See now, suppose that you're going to study uh, about good teaching or good learning. So that's that's the phenomena that you are going to focus right in your research. Ontology asks the question whether what you are going to study exists as an objective external fact that can be empirically observed and measured, or is it something that is constructed of the human mind? So these are the two ways for us to look at it. Now let's try to understand this further. You can see that there are three terms given here: realism, relativism, and critical realism. What is realism? That's one way for us to understand what reality is. Under realism, or we can use the term objectivism as well, in this world there's only one reality. So suppose that you are focusing on something in your research, and according to what you are going to study, there's only one reality in the world, and what you are going to do in your research is just to study that reality. uh, Look at the definition. A single reality exists independently of the researcher. A researcher believes, labels, or perceptions of it. And the researcher, suppose if you are going to do the research, that your feelings or your perceptions and your attitudes do not affect or influence the research process or the findings of your research, and that the reality exists independently of yours. That's or independently of the researcher. They are something that is called reality, and that is not influenced by the researcher. And when it comes to relativism, that is the opposite of realism. There you see now, there can be several or many realities of the phenomena that you are going to study. It doesn't mean that there's only one reality. There can be a few realities or several realities. A reality is subjective and plural. Plural in the sense you see now that there can be a number of realities you see now, and the other thing is that is subjective. That is to say that the researcher, if you are going to do the research, that your opinions and the perceptions or feelings can influence or the affect the research process or the findings you see now. Now the example for the first one you see, students decoding accuracy or a class's test scores are treated as objective facts that exist whether or not anyone measures them. So that reality is there. But under relativism you see now, effective teaching means something different to each teacher, a student, and a parent. No single true version exists. Supposing if you are going to look at what good teaching is or effective teaching is, under realism there's only one reality, and if you are going to do the research and we try to capture that particular reality. But under realism you see now, okay, effective teaching, okay, there can be a number of realities when you do the research and when I do the research. Okay, perhaps you see that your attitudes can affect the research process, your research process, and I may interpret it. I may construct a different meaning of what effective teaching is. That comes under relativism. Now you can understand. Okay, you must have this particular understanding about the ontology of your research topic, of your research study, whether you are going to look at one particular reality or whether there's only one reality right for your research, or a number of realities. And critical realism is kind of combination of the two, realism and relativism. Reality exists independently of us, but our understanding of it is always partial and theory led. There you see, now for us to study this according to critical realism, you see, now we got to look at it from the perspective of both realism and relativism. Classroom engagement is real, yet what researchers is in it depends on whether they hold a behaviorist or constructivist lens. We can discuss this further. Right, it's about epistemology. What's meant by epistemology? It refers to the nature or origin or scope or the limits of the human knowledge. So we can take the study of the human knowledge. So you can see here the theory of knowledge. So what counts as valid knowledge and how it can be acquired. So what's knowledge and how do we know what we know? So that comes under epistemology. So there are four areas given here, but I'll just focus only on the first three. You see now, positivism, interpretism or constructivism, and pragmatism. So what is positivism? So there are the definitions given here is knowledge comes from objective observation and measurement. The researcher remains detached from the subject. As we discussed, you see now in ontology, under realism, you see now here, according to positivism, you see now knowledge comes from objective observation. There are something objective, okay, independently of the researcher, and we study that one, and that is there, and that is not influenced by the researcher, his perceptions or his feelings, you see now, okay, and that can be measured. The researcher remains detached. That's what's called positivism. For example, you see now analyzing standardized test scores across school to measure the effect of a new math curriculum. Supposing that you are going to introduce a new curriculum and you're going to see how effective it is, you see now, and you implement that for some time and then you give a test to the students, and then according to the scores, the test scores, you see now that you can decide whether that particular okay curriculum is effective or not, right? Then there you see now you measure the test marks, you see now, and then accordingly that you decide that one. There you can see, you see, yeah, that your involvement is there only to do the research, but your perceptions or attitudes do not influence that or impact that particular research process or the research finding. That is called positivism. But the other way now for us to look at it, you see now, interpretivism or constructivism. That is the opposite of positivism. And they are the knowledge is, according to interpretivism, knowledge is co-constructed through interactions. Understanding meaning matters more than measuring facts. They are what you are going to do, that supposing that you are going to do a research, and in your research that you got to interview some people there. So when you interview, you know, you get the interview and you get the transcript of that interview, and then you interpret in that particular process. Now there's a greater possibility for you to perhaps you see now look at the research process from your perspectives as well. Here, interviewing teachers about their lived experiences of adopting a flipped classroom model. So there you can see the researcher interprets So when the researcher collect data using a interpretation is done by the researcher. So this is called interpretism or constructivism. It's the researcher who construct the knowledge there. So that is called constructivism. But it doesn't mean that the teacher is not going to, or the researcher is not going to construct the knowledge right in a haphazard way. But that must be done using according the data gathered. And the third one is pragmatism. That is the both the positivist and okay constructivist approaches are combined. They are here. Knowledge is valued for its practical usefulness in solving real problems. The question drives the approach. Look at this one here. Combining survey and focus groups to find out in practical terms whether an intervention improves engagement. There, what you are going to do, you see now, maybe that you can give a survey or a question, administer a questionnaire, and on the other hand that you're going to have a focus group. So when you have a survey or a questionnaire, you see now that belongs to what's called positivist approach. And when you're going to have a focus group, you see now that comes under constructivism, you see now. So it's a combination of both. Now these are the three important basic areas. The other one is also very important, but these are the three basic areas of research which you must have a very good understanding for you to organize your own research. According to your epistemological and ontological views, Susana, that you design on the type of research that you are going to do. So here methodology means you see now the strategy of inquiry. Now you have already decided on, because now you have your ontology, whether you are going to study one particular reality or number of realities, or whether okay you are going to use positivism or something you see now as objective that you can measure with the statistics, or something that you are going to interpret. So now we have already decided, you see now, and then you see now methodology for you to do your research, go on or carry out your research, you see now, then you are going to use what's called research methodology. That the strategy of inquiry, that is how a study is designed, how you are going to design your research and conducted to answer its question. Methodology refers to how you are going to collect data and analyze data. So this I'm not going to discuss in detail, since I'm going to have a series of right discussions, right lessons. The videos is now on research methodology. So I'll just give a brief right introduction to this one. So under this now there are three areas. What are they? Quantitative research, qualitative research, and mixed method research. What is quantitative research? There are numerical data are collected and analyzed statistically to test hypotheses and identify patterns or causal effects. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to use hypothesis in all your research, but very often you see now when you are going to do quantitative research, you see now you have a research problem, then you try to research questions and objectives, and very often hypotheses. Okay, then what you are going to do is just you see now collect data and analyze in order to see whether the hypothesis that you are written either can be validated or rejected. So that comes under what is called quantitative research. Here randomized control trial comparing end of term test scores between phonics based group and whole language group. So this is the research. There you can see that you are going to do sort of, you see now, kind of comparison of the marks or the test scores, you see now, that is completely quantitative. But the next one is qualitative. That is the opposite of quantitative. There you see now, we are not going to use numerical data. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are not going to use. You see now, this is non-numerical data. Very often that you're going to use words or the images or the observations. They are, I told you that when you are going to interpret, you see now, it's about rather than numbers, it's about words, you see now. And data are explored to understand meaning, context, and experience. There I told you that in qualitative research that you build up meaning, you construct meaning. Here an ethnographic study observing classroom culture and peer interactions across a full semester. So when you are going to study about culture, that you can use numbers as 1, 2, 3, or percentages, 10%, 20% or so. No, is what matters is how you are going to interpret this one. That is okay. That comes under what is called constructive so interpretism. You see now, this is qualitative research, and in my next video I am going to discuss with you the difference between quantitative and qualitative research, and this is only a brief introduction to this one. And then we have mixed method, that's a combination of both quantitative and qualitative research. Here you can see how ontology, epistemology and methodology are combined. Here, ontology means what's assumed to be real. So, what is the reality of the thing that you are going to study? And the second one, epistemology, you see now, how can that reality be known? We know that there's one reality or a number of realities. Is now, how can we come to know that or come to know it? Then methodology, how is it investigated in practice for us to come to know that, to get the knowledge? Okay, how you are going to collect data and analyze. This is called methodology. Now you can see that there's a very clear combination of these three. And if you are going to go a bit further, you see now we have realist, positivist chain. What is this? Realism and positivism. This is about ontological view, realism. Then positivism means epistemological view. Okay, and then here reading ability is treated as a measurable fact. Testing or standardized assessment analyzed with a control experiment comparing two phonic programs. Is an what's called experimental research. You see now, they are there we think that there's only one reality, and for that we use positivism. You see now here, realism okay leads to positivism, and that leads to what is called quantitative research. So if you have your view, ontological view as realism and epistemical view as positivism, then definitely you are going to do a quantitative research. And then according to relativism, that is your ontological view, and then interpretism or constructivism. There you see now this combination leads to qualitative research. Now I think that you got a very good understanding that for you to decide whether you're going to do a qualitative research or quantitative research, you see now that your ontological and epistemological views of what you are going to do matter a lot. Okay, and it is these views you see now that lead you to decide on the type of research, whether it's qualitative or quantitative or mixed method research that you are going to do. Mixed method means it's a combination of uh, these two, that the first two. Okay, this is the summary of our discussion. Look at this one. Here we have the layer, the co-question, the key types, and teaching and learning examples. I think that when you go through, you can summarize everything that we have discussed, and you will get very good understanding of research philosophy. Now, okay, in the layer, that there are three areas that we focused on, as I told you, under research philosophy: ontology, epistemology, and methodology. What is okay? Ontology, that is what is real, and epistemology, how can we know that reality? Methodology, how do we investigate that reality? And what the key types you see now under ontology, we have realism, relativism, and critical realism. Under epistemology, we have positivism, interpretism, and pragmatism basically. And methodology, we have quantitative, qualitative, and mixed method research. Now, what are the examples given there? Under ontology, you see now, okay, here, a good, uh, a good teaching and objective is a good teaching an objective fact or a personal construction. Here, epistemology measure test scores objectively or interview teachers to understand meaning. Methodology, a control experiment that comes under quantitative research, classroom ethnography, or that is qualitative research, or both combined. That's mixed research. Now you see, we have an inseparable relationship among the things that we have discussed. Good. And in our next video, we will talk about research methodology further.